Hi, everybody. Welcome to Gamer Thoughts, the show where we talk about whatever's been jumbling in my head this week when it comes to gaming. Now, this week's episode falls on Easter Sunday, so I thought I'd do a bit of a special episode talking specifically about religious iconography in video games. Now, don't worry, we're not talking about the hit 1991 NES classic Bible Adventures, which, in my opinion, is actually a pretty fun game. But more so, wanted to talk about times where I've seen religious iconography used within video games as far back as NES's Castlevania, with weapons like the cross being used to fight demons and vampires and all that fun stuff. But also, it still exists in a lot of modern games. You look at games like the Devil May Cry series, where generally you'll have these massive final bosses that are like a Greco-Roman Western religious, like large statuesque being meant to represent God. Um, and all sorts of crazy things that have happened in video games with religious iconography. If you look at Japanese horror genres, they pull a lot from not just Western religions, but Eastern religions, Buddhism, Shintoism, and bring those tales to life for these beautiful horror games that are very spooky and very eerie. I don't think any discussion of religion in video games is complete without talking about JRPGs. Now, I'm sure we've all seen the meme before for JRPG of, the first quest is, oh, I've got to go pick up some water for the village, and the last quest is kill God at the end of the universe. It's a very common formula, and we see it a lot, and we see a lot of these religious entities within JRPG that are often portrayed as bad, and at some point something that you have to take on as the main character. Now, this is actually a reflection of some of the actual views of religion within Japan. Back in 1995, there was actually a religious organization that committed a horrible act and did a gas attack in the Tokyo subway. And to this day, that affects a lot of Japanese people's view of religion, specifically organized religion. And we see that reflection in video games, that religious organizations are usually bad and not necessarily to be trusted. You look recently towards Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward in the last 5 years, there was a huge theme of the religious organization not being trusted within that game. However, when I specifically think of like religious iconography in JRPGs and in video games, there's one that always comes to mind and always comes to the discussion. And I'd be remiss not to mention the 1998 classic Xenogears. Now, if you played video games during the PS1 era and you played JRPG, you probably know about Xenogears. It's on top 10 lists for RPG. To this day, because of its phenomenal story, which tackles a lot of religious themes, trauma, how that affects us, plays with the Adam and Eve mythos, plays with the 12 apostles, plays with a lot of Judeo-Christian myths and stories, and it makes for a phenomenal story. One of the best in video game history, in my personal opinion. And I look at that, and I look at how it's affected me growing up personally, seeing depictions of religion in video games. And it's helped me to have a lot of discussions with myself that I don't think I would have had or necessarily would have had a space to have, honestly, had I not had these things brought up in gaming. I think it's a wonderful storytelling tool. I think that it's something I would love to continue to see in video games and see it explored more. Even if it's the same formula with new characters, I always tend to enjoy it. But what do you think about this? What's a time where you saw religious iconography in a video game done well, versus do you have an experience where you're all like, oh man, they really didn't need to include this and I wish it wasn't there? Let me know down in the comments. Tell me some of your favorite games or experiences you had where you were just like, oh, whoa, some things are clicking in my head that I never thought about. And if you like this content, remember to like and subscribe. I do a Gamer Thoughts video every week, as well as gameplay clips and other content on the channel. But as always, much love. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday. We'll see you next time.